Hello, this is Photography Gamer, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode I'll be looking at the photo mode in Watchdogs Legion. I'll be breaking down the functions and I'll give you some tips on taking photos and using the selfie camera as well. Okay, so Watchdogs Legion, it's a decent photo mode, not perfect, there's a few issues with it, but it's got a nice variety of options, it's quite simple to use, a few teething issues, but I'm going to go into those later. First, let's look at the basic functions. Okay, to enter the photo mode, you've got two options. One, you can click the L and R analog sticks in, but one bad point to this is sometimes your character will begin to crouch as you do that. Personally, I'd recommend holding up on the D-pad, then pressing triangle, which enters the photo mode. L2 and R2 uses a zoom. Now, I wouldn't use that straight away. I'd use the joysticks to zoom in, and then use the zoom when you've composed your shot, just to make some minor tweaks. L1 and R1 tilts the camera, so it puts it on a different axis. It's like good for action, good for motion, good for surrealism, good for kind of off-kilter images. If you press the D-pad, up, down, left or right, that will pan the camera. So up and down is like craning, which kind of high shots are good for panoramas, low shots are good for scale. Left and right, it's a good way of making micro adjustments to the camera position. If you hold down the touchpad, that will reset the camera position. If you click R3, that will focus on a subject or object that the square object in the middle of the screen is on top of. If you click R3 on a subject, then use the R stick. That will orbit the player. Orbiting the player means that the camera will be locked to the position of your character, and when you move the analog sticks, it won't zoom out, it will just rotate. The L and R sticks act as a free camera, as I said earlier. Circle exits the photo mode. If you press on the touchpad, that shows you your gallery of photos. And if you press triangle, that will hide the user interface if you want to press the share button to take a screenshot on your PS4. Okay, so if you click L3, that will take us to the advanced options. So now we're going to go into each tab on the advanced options section. First we have stickers, so if you press up and down you can go through all of the available stickers. So there's nice ones here. They're not, I wouldn't say they're stickers per se, I'd say they're more like logos, but they add a nice kind of like uniformity to the image, so you can kind of make a sort of like a branded Watchdogs type image. Next we have color filters, so you've got a variety here. Again, a little bit limited, perhaps you can't change the intensity as much. I would like that option because that always helps. But you've got a few nice filters here to play around with, black and whites, more color, various other things. Next tab is adjustments, so in here we've got quite a few things. We've got brightness, temperature, tint, saturation, contrast and exposure. Brightness raises or lowers the brightness level in the entire image. Temperature goes from blue to a kind of warm orange, depending on whether you want to change that kind of sense of the image, the white balance I guess you'd call it. Then we have tinting, which one end is green, one end is purple, again changing the color tinting of your shot. Saturation is if you want to go monochrome one direction or you want to go really pop art over the top colors. Be careful because it does, like, they're very severe, these editing sliders. I'm not very impressed with them compared to other games that this Ubisoft have done. I think they're a little bit shoddy. Contrast again is good for like popping things out of the environment, making a good differential between two different things. But again, very severe. And exposure, again, exposure's like brightness, but more emphasis on kind of like lighter levels, overexposing or lowering the kind of overall brightness of the bright areas perhaps. Then we have effects, chromatic aberration. It's kind of like, it's like a vignette. It adds a border to the image with blurring and kind of weird effects. It's a bit like 3D bordering. It's good for creating a disorientated feel. Then we have a vignette. Vignettes are dark borders around the image that are basically there to try and emphasize the center of the shot. It's not a very good vignette system though. Like a lot of these settings, a little bit disappointing. Then we have film grain. The film grain's okay, but again, it's not like proper grain. It's kind of like still grain. Most grain has movement, which gives it a bit of life when you're taking a shot. Here, it's kind of like stagnant. So again, slightly disappointing. Next tab, depth of field. Okay, depth of field. Think of depth of field like, where is the focus going to be? How much is going to be in focus? And that's really what you need to know. So you can have it on or off. Aperture, one end, everything will be in focus. One end, it will be very, very narrow. So it'll be like a sort of a person will be in focus. Everything else will be blurry. And the focus distance is what you have to select. Where do you want the focus to originate? And then you change the aperture depending on how much area you would like to be clear and crisp and how much you want blurred. Okay, so those are the main settings, but we've also got a handheld camera. So if you press up on the D-pad and press square, that will enter camera mode. So it's like having a camera phone. If you press the square button when it's up, you can switch between front or back. So, normal photos or selfie photos. If you hold down L3 and use R, you can change the angle that you're holding the camera. And and there's a button there to change your poses as well if you wanted to do a selfie. Like, one thing I would recommend with the handheld camera is you can also use the editing settings like the tabs. So if you want to take a nice shot of the city, maybe pull the camera up, change all the settings to what you want it to be, then hide the user interface and just walk around the city in first person mode with all those filters on, and then take the picture based on that. So it's good if you wanted to do black and white photography, for example. Make a black and white setup, walk around the city and take pictures in black and white, because that will help your black and white skills. Or if you want to do a selfie, set the selfie up and just walk around holding the camera out like you would in real life and try not to get run over by traffic. So the handheld camera, it's good. It gives you more options. Also, if you want to record video, still videos of the city, it's good because you can get the UI off, walk around. You can basically make Watch Dogs look like a first person game. So it's kind of a cool camera feature to add. Scoring wise, let's go to the good first. Lots of options, yes. And I like the fact that it's got a real camera and a selfie camera. That's kind of fun. And you can walk around holding it up. That's nice. Bad points. I think the font sizes are a little bit small on screen. Layout is all over the place because, you should always be able to recompose your shot. Now, when you're in some of the menus, you can't change the composition really. That's quite disappointing. And also the post-processing stuff in this game is really, really bad. Like, incredibly severe. It should be the other end. Like, editing a photo is really a delicate process. You need to have really fine-tuning options. Here it's incredibly heavy-handed, like the contrast, the brightness, the exposure. You move it tiny amounts and it goes absolutely horrifically awful looking. It's a shame because it's got everything in this photo mode you would probably want. I just think the post-processing stuff is appalling, to be perfectly honest. So scoring wise, I'd probably give it 7.5 out of 10 because it's got the options. It's just, I found it quite a difficult mode to actually enjoy taking pictures because I just think it's a little bit cumbersome. And like I said, editing, it's an art form. It's delicate. You've got to be very sort of subtle with the changes because if you have settings that are very heavy-handed, it's very difficult to actually edit anything in a nice way because you're always dealing with extremes. Editing should be really sort of much more delicately handled, so that's disappointing, but it's still a nice mode. You can still take some good shots, but could have been a lot better. Okay, there you go. Thank you for watching. I hope it was useful. I hope you take some nice shots and the breakdown will help you in future. Any comments, pop them down in the comments section and I'll do my best to answer them. For now, this is Photography Gamer signing off. Thank you.